Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 2 on Indian economy UPSC CSE prelims preparation. In the first lecture we talked about a few basic economy topics. We went through all the topics regarding GDP, GNP, what are different aspects of them, what is included in GDP, what is excluded, all those kinds of things. In today's lecture also we are going to continue with our discussion on Indian economy basic topics. So first we will go through a few topics, understand the depth of it, and then we will try and see how much we have learned using the example of some past year questions which have come in previous year prelims exam. Alright, so without wasting any more time, let's look at what we are going to cover today. So the lecture agenda for today is going to be, first we are going to discuss what are different sectors in the economy, primary, secondary, tertiary sector, a few concepts related to national income, what is nominal GDP, what is real GDP, and which measure gives you what. So what does nominal GDP tells you, what does real GDP tells you. Then we will talk about how since when national income estimates started to begin, and which are the organizations which are involved in taking care of all these kinds of calculations. And then we will boost all our concepts with the help of past year question papers. Alright, so with that being said, let's move on to the first topic for today's lecture, which is what are the different sectors in the economy. So economy basically can be divided into three sectors. First is the primary sector, second is the secondary sector, and third is the tertiary sector. So different kinds of activities are involved in each of the sectors. So let's first understand what is a primary sector. So primary sector involves all those kinds of activities wherein you directly extract or harvest things from the mother nature, which is the earth. So it involves the extraction or harvesting of products directly from the earth or land, and it is majorly involved in the production of raw materials. So basically everything related to agriculture, everything related to mining, everything related to forestry, people picking up different forest products, and fishing. All of these activities come under the purview of primary sector. So everybody who is employed in all these kinds of activities will be called that he or she is employed in the primary sector. The next sector that we have in the economy is the secondary sector. So whatever things that have been procured from the primary sector, if you do some processing on those products or those raw materials, all those processing activities are involved in the secondary sector. So it involves production of finished good using the raw materials that you've taken from the primary sector. So all the manufacturing activities, the processing and construction activities lie in this sector. So once you have mined a few products, if you do some kind of metal work, automobile manufacturing, textile manufacturing, shipbuilding, so all the manufacturing activities are involved in the secondary sector. So this particular sector is a major employer in the economy. So if you have a huge enough secondary sector, this is a labor intensive sector. So this sector gives jobs to lots and lots of people. So if a country does not have a strong secondary sector, unemployment is usually a huge problem in such economies. So now moving on to the next step, what is the other kinds of sectors in the economy? So the third sector that we are going to talk about is the tertiary sector. So it is also called the service sector. So all your tourism services, all your retail services, all your beauty services, all your education related services, all your financial services, banking services, anything wherein you are not actually producing anything, it's a service that is being provided to you. So the way you are getting access to these lectures, it is also a service, because there is no production or no extraction of any particular product. So it is also called service sector. Examples of the services that are in this sector involves retail, so kirana shops that you see, transportation services, entertainment, banking and tourism. All these activities are involved in the tertiary sector. And whenever an economy grows, so the normal trajectory that the economy takes is that first it is majorly dependent on the primary sector, then the economy starts to have more and more manufacturing units, the industrial sector grows, so the secondary sector grows, and finally the transition from secondary to service sector happens. So in most of the advanced economies, tertiary sector is the largest in terms of production and employment. So in most of the advanced economies, the tertiary sector is the major contributor to GDP. So GDP is the concept that we discussed in previous lecture. So in most of the advanced economy, majority or the major percentage of GDP contribution comes from the tertiary sector. And within tertiary sector, there are two more bifurcation. One is called quaternary sector and one is called quinary sector. So quaternary sector and quinary sector are further refinements within the tertiary sector. So if you talk about quaternary sector, it consists of the intellectual and knowledge-based activities. So every R&D that happens in various government and private institutes, so all kinds of consulting, financial planning, education services, all these kinds of services come under the quaternary sector. And if you go one level above this, so all the activities wherein high level of decision making is involved, all those activities come under the quinary sector. So all the top government officials, whatever kind of work that they do, that comes under the quinary sector. So it consists of highest level of decision making in a country, so who does all the higher level decision making in the country? It includes top officials of the government, big media personnels, and distinguished professors in the universities who give opinions regarding different kinds of policies. So this is a bifurcation of the sectors in the economy. So first we started with primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector, and within tertiary sector we bifurcated things further into quaternary sector and quinary sector. So primary sector, anything which has to do with you directly getting things out of the earth. So harvesting, mining, forestry, all these kinds of activities. The second kind of activities, all the manufacturing activities come under the secondary sector, or all those kinds of activities wherein you are processing the products that all the raw materials that you've gotten from the primary sector, all those processing and all the manufacturing and production of good happen in the secondary sector. And the third sector is all about giving services. So education, banking, financial services, entertainment, all of this come under the tertiary sector. So these were different sectors that are present in the economy. I hope this bifurcation is clear. So now that we are done with this, let us move on to the next major topic under basic economics. So in the previous lecture also we talked a bit about what is GDP, what is GNP, what does GNP include, what does GDP include. So GNP is basically a citizen based concept, a population based concept, wherein you talk about what is the total market value of all the goods and services that are produced by domestic factors of production, wherein we talked about GDP, which was a geographical concept wherein we see what is the market value of production that happened inside the economy. So now we will talk a bit more on the concept of national income. So there are multiple questions that are being asked in the prelims. So let's see what is national income and what are the different measures in which you can talk about national income. Alright, so let's talk about what exactly is national income, what is the exact formula or what is the exact term or what are the different aspects that are included within national income. So if you talk about national income is NNP at factor cost. So sorry, I was trying to do something, it didn't happen. Yeah, so we are talking about what is national income. So national income is net national product at factor cost. So you would ask me, what is this net national product? So in the previous lecture also we discussed, whenever you remove the impact of depreciation from a gross value, you get a net value. So if I say, so if we talk about net national product is what? Gross national product minus depreciation. So whenever you remove depreciation, what is depreciation? The consumption of fixed capital. So you buy a car once, right? But you consume it for 10 years. So over the years what happens is it loses somewhat its value, right? Some parts get rusted, sometimes you have to replace some parts, कुछ parts खराब हो जाते हैं. So ये सब consumption of fixed capital जो आपने एक बारी खरीद ली है उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं depreciation. So whenever you remove depreciation from a gross value, you get a net value. So we first know that okay, NNP is GNP minus depreciation. Now what is this factor cost? So what is this factor cost? We will talk about what is factor cost and what is market cost. So factor cost is nothing but the cost of factors of production, and market cost is when you actually sell the items in the market. So let's say I have produced a pencil, and so just at the time of production what happens is I don't give taxes to anybody and I don't receive subsidies from the government at this point, at the production point. But the moment this pencil goes to the market, there is some tax that needs to be paid, and if there are some subsidies available for this pencil, I will receive those subsidies. So every calculation at the time of production, if you include all those values, they are called factor cost. So the cost of factors of production, and when those items reach the market, they are taxed and they receive subsidies. So when you consider those values, that is NNP at market cost, and at the time of production it is NNP at factor cost. So we will talk about it, but basically if somebody asks you what is national income, it is the net national product at the factor cost. So at the time of production it is the net national product in the economy. So that is the exact definition of national income. I hope this is clear. So now let's move on to the topic at hand. So we talked about national income is considered as net national product at factor cost. So we understood what each of this term means. अब एक सिंगल मेजर नहीं है ना नेशनल इनकम का, आप एग्जैक्टली हमेशा एक ही नंबर नहीं लोगे, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो सिमिलर तरीके की चीज़ें आपको बताएंगी, बट किसी में कुछ चीज़ें ऐड होंगी, कुछ चीज़ें सब्ट्रैक्ट होंगी। तो इन जनरल सेंस आप नेशनल इनकम को अगर मेजर करना चाहते हो तो और भी अलग अलग तरीके हो सकते हैं। सो इट कैन ऑल्सो बी मेजर्ड यूजिंग GNP because GNP and NNP are linked. So you can also say somewhat that your GDP will also tell you a measure of national income. अगर आपका net factor of payments बहुत ज़्यादा it's not a very big number, so that आपका GNP और GDP बहुत different है, and it could also be measured or it could also be termed as gross national income, net national product, और अब एक और मेजर है टू फाइंड आउट व्हाट इज़ द नेशनल इनकम, यू कैन ऑल्सो टॉक अबाउट पर कैपिटा इनकम। सो जब भी डेफिनेशन की बात आएगी, दिस इज़ द फाइनल आइटम विच इज़ नेशनल इनकम इज़ नेट नेशनल प्रोडक्ट एट फैक्टर कॉस्ट। और बहुत सारे मेजर्स हैं, GDP, GNP, NNP, नेशनल इनकम, पर कैपिटा इनकम, ये सब अलग अलग नंबर्स हैं जो आपको एक ही आइडिया रिफ्लेक्ट करेंगे। सो मूवमेंट को आप ये सब में से किसी भी एक पैरामीटर या एक मेजर है उससे आप ट्रैक कर सकते हो। सो yes, so now coming to the point of what is factor cost and market cost. So we have already discussed what is factor cost and what is market cost, but एक बारी let's revise it again. So all these aggregates that I have talked about, GDP, GNP और नेशनल इनकम, ये सब या तो फैक्टर कॉस्ट पे मेजर किए जा सकते हैं या फिर मार्केट प्राइस पे मेजर किए जा सकते हैं। सो लेट्स से आप एक पेंसिल जो है प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, तो ये जो फैक्ट्री है पेंसिल की, और ये जो है यहाँ पे मार्केट है जहाँ पे ये पेंसिल्स जो हैं सेल होती हैं। सो ये इस लेवल पे जितने भी कॉस्ट लगा है विदाउट पेइंग टैक्सेस टू द गवर्नमेंट एंड विदाउट रिसीविंग सब्सिडीज, all of this can be termed as factor cost, and once this pencil reaches the market, we will have what is called market we will have what is called market prices, क्योंकि जब आप ये पेंसिल खरीदने जाओगे तो इसमें टैक्सेस लग चुके होंगे। सो फैक्टर कॉस्ट रिफर्स टू द कॉस्ट ऑफ फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन। तो इस पेंसिल को प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए आपने किस जगह पे वो फैक्ट्री थी आपकी, वहाँ पे आपने रेंट दिया, इंटरेस्ट ऑन कैपिटल, सो वॉट एवर कैपिटल इक्विपमेंट्स यू हैड और वॉट एवर मनी दैट यू बोरोड, सो वॉट इज़ द इंटरेस्ट दैट यू पेड, यू ऑल्सो एम्प्लॉयड लॉट्स ऑफ लेबर जिनको वेजेस आपने दी, सो वॉट इज़ दैट, and what is the profit left for the entrepreneur who is running those operations. All right, so factor cost is nothing but whatever is the market price, and if you remove the indirect taxes from it and you add the subsidies. So factor cost निकालने का तरीका क्या है, जो भी मार्केट में प्राइस है उस प्रोडक्ट का, सो पेंसिल का जो भी प्राइस है उसमें जितना टैक्स ऐड हो गया है इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, सो जो भी GST पेंसिल पे लगा हुआ है वो आप सब्ट्रैक्ट कर दो, और इस पेंसिल को जितनी भी सब्सिडी मिली हुई है वो वापस ऐड कर दो। सो बाय डूइंग दिस यू गेट अ रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन फैक्टर कॉस्ट एंड मार्केट प्राइस। सो फैक्टर कॉस्ट और मार्केट प्राइस में इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस एंड सब्सिडीज से ही वेरिएशन आता है। सो नाउ आई होप दिस वाज क्लियर। Now moving on to what is market price. So market price is the price which is actually paid by the consumer. So in this example it is the actual price that is paid for this pencil. So it would also include the indirect taxes जो इस pencil पे लग चुके हैं. So you will add that and you will remove whatever subsidies this pencil received. So this relationship between market price and factor cost is nothing but, so whatever we've done is we've just changed this equation, we have brought this indirect taxes to this side and this subsidy is also to this side. So what we have here is, so market price is nothing but factor cost plus indirect taxes minus subsidies is what is the market price. So जितना भी आपको पेंसिल का कॉस्ट लगा अब जब ये पेंसिल मार्केट में जाएगी तो इस पे जो टैक्स लगेगा, so that is added to the price, and whatever subsidy is received, that is removed. So that will tell you what is the market price of this particular pencil. All right, so this is the key difference between market price and factor cost. So remember, national income is nothing but NNP at factor cost. All right, and there are other measures as we talked about to measure national income. One of them is what is the average income of a person who is living in a nation. So this measure is called per capita income. So it measures the amount of money that is being earned per person in a certain area. So how do we calculate per capita income? मान लीजिए आपकी पूरी कंट्री में 10,000 रुपये जो है टोटल अर्न किया जा रहा है थ्रू आउट द इकोनॉमी, और आपकी पूरी इकोनॉमी में 100 लोग हैं. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि 100 लोग काम कर रहे हैं. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट 100 इज़ द वर्किंग पॉपुलेशन. नो, 100 इज़ द टोटल नंबर ऑफ पीपल इन योर इकोनॉमी. सो व्हाट इज़ द पर कैपिटा इनकम? So whatever is your national income divided by whatever is your population. So in this case, what will be the per capita income? So this 10,000 divided by the population. So we have per capita income is 100 rupees. So हर एक आदमी के हिस्से में on an average 100 रुपये आ जाएंगे अगर सब कुछ equally distribute हो तो. So that is another measure which is per capita income. सो ऐसा हो सकता है कि आपकी इकोनॉमी में कुछ लोगों के पास कुछ भी ना हो और कुछ लोगों के पास बहुत ज़्यादा हो, बट जब आप एवरेज करोगे सो एवरेज नंबर वुड बी 100. सो इट कुड बी दैट ओनली वन पर्सन इज अर्निंग दिस, बट व्हेन यू फाइंड पर कैपिटा इनकम सो इट विल कम आउट टू बी 100. सो दैट वुड मीन इट इज़ लाइक ऑन एवरेज एवरी पर्सन हैज़ 100 रुपीज़ विद हिम. सो जैसे कि हमने एग्जाम्पल लिया कि ये पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट ऑफ इनकम एक इंसान ही कमा सकता है. सो दिस पर कैपिटा इनकम विल नॉट टेल यू हाउ द इनकम इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड इन द इकोनॉमी. सो कितनी इनइक्वालिटी है इकोनॉमी में वो पर कैपिटा इनकम कभी भी नहीं बता सकता, और ना ही GDP और GNP बता सकता है. सो वी नीड डिफरेंट मेजर्स टू फाइंड दैट आउट. So I hope this is clear, and with that we will move on to the next topic at hand. Okay, so now let's talk about nominal versus real GDP. So इसको समझने के लिए before going into the definition I would like to take up an example. So let's see. सो मान लीजिए कि आपकी इकोनॉमी में सिर्फ 2 ही चीज़ें प्रोड्यूस होती हैं. सो वी प्रोड्यूस कंप्यूटर्स. सो वी प्रोड्यूस्ड कंप्यूटर एंड वी प्रोड्यूस्ड साइकिल. ऑलराइट, एक इकोनॉमी में हम और से 2 ही चीज़ें प्रोड्यूस होती हैं, कंप्यूटर्स एंड साइकिल. ठीक है, अभी हम 2021 की बात कर लेते हैं और फिर हम नेक्स्ट ईयर 2022 की बात करते हैं. 2022 की बात करते हैं. सो मान लीजिए इस इकोनॉमी में 5 कंप्यूटर्स बने और 5 ही बाइसाइकिल्स बने. ठीक है, और 2022 में भी क्या हुआ, मान लेते हैं कि 4 कंप्यूटर्स बनाए गए और 4 बाइसाइकिल्स बनाए गए. ठीक है, अब जब मैं GDP और GNP निकालूंगी देन व्हाट डू आई डू, मैं क्या करती हूँ, इट इज़ द मार्केट वैल्यू ऑफ ऑल द गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज दैट इज़ प्रोड्यूस्ड विद इन अ पर्टिकुलर टाइम पीरियड इन इंडिया. सो इंडिया के अंदर 5 कंप्यूटर्स बने और 5 साइकिल्स बने, और मार्केट वैल्यू निकालनी है तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा, उनके प्राइसेस क्या थे. सो आप मान लीजिए कि सो लेट्स से प्राइस in 2021. So price of computer let's say was 100 rupees and cycle was, let's say is also 100 rupees. To make the calculations easier, let's keep it that way. Okay, and suddenly what happens in 2022, prices become a little different. In 2022, the price of cycle remains 100 and price of computer become 150. Okay, so अब हम लोग क्या करते हैं, GDP निकालने की कोशिश करते हैं. GDP in the year 2021 and GDP in the year 2022. Okay, so what is GDP? GDP is the market value of all the goods and services that are produced in an economy in a particular year. And since I am finding out GDP for 2021, let's talk about what is the market value of computers. So market value of computer is nothing but what? So this is, so 5 computers bane 100 rupees mein. So what is the value? So value of all the computers is 500 and 5 cycle bane 100 rupees mein. So what is the value of it? 500. So what is the total market value? 1000. So GDP in the year 2021 is 1000 rupees. Now let's talk about what is the GDP in 2022. Okay, so what is the market value of computers? So this is 4 produce किए हैं at the price of 150. So the market value is 600 and we have produced 4 cycles at the price of 100. So what is the value? 400. So अब अगर आप GDP 2022 की बात करोगे 2022 के लिए, so this is also 1000. Okay, so अब ये क्या हुआ? So if you look from the top, if somebody doesn't tell you what is happening inside, I just give you the numbers कि GDP is 1000 in 2021 and GDP is 1000 in 2022. So what would you feel? आपको लगेगा कि okay, same ही level of production तो हुआ है, but अगर आप अंदर जाके देखोगे तो you can clearly see that what is happening. Production यहाँ पे कितना था? 5 computers and 5 cycles, and यहाँ पे production जो है कम हो गया है, 4 computers and 4 cycle. That means your production has actually gone down, but your GDP value is showing कि okay, market value is the same. So जब भी हमें GDP में से prices का impact normalize करना होता है, whenever we want to remove the effect of prices from the GDP, we talk about real GDP. Okay, and nominal GDP is whatever is the market value of all the goods and services. So current market prices का use करके अगर GDP को निकाला जाता है, so that is called nominal GDP. And if you use a base year means अगर मैं suppose if I fix these prices to be the prices always, अगर मैं बोल देती हूँ कि 2021 के जो prices हैं उन्हें fix कर दिया जाए और आगे जो भी production हो रही है वो इसी से compare की जाए, तो अब अगर मैं GDP निकालूंगी using these prices and not these prices, then what is the value of GDP? Since prices are 100, so value would be 400, and since price here is also 100, so the value is 400. So if you add these two numbers, your GDP would be 800. So your real GDP would be 800. So if you compare this 800 with this 1000, you can clearly see that your GDP value has gone down. So using the value of real GDP, you can tell whether your production levels have increased or decreased. So that is the use of real GDP. So जब भी आपको real GDP calculate करनी होती है, there is a need for having a particular year as a base year जिसके prices को आप reference मान के चीज़ों को compare कर सको. I hope the concept is clear, and the objective of the need of nominal GDP and real GDP is also clear. Why do we need such concepts? So now moving on. So now everything is going to be a cakewalk from here. So what is nominal GDP? It is the market value of all the final goods and services produced within the country. So the general definition, so whatever is the market value. So जो भी current year है उसके prices you use and you find the value of goods and services. And then what is real GDP? It is a measurement of the value of output. So there is a in that needs to come here. So it is a measurement of the value of output in the economy adjusted for price changes. So you don't let prices to change, you fix the prices at a particular year and then you find out how much has the production changed. So it is a measure of how much production happened in the economy and it is a good measure to compare. So in order to calculate real GDP, there is a need for having a base year because you have to fix a particular year to find the real GDP. कोई ना कोई साल तो आपको fix करना ही पड़ेगा. And whenever you look at real GDP growth rate, it removes any effect that is coming because of inflation. And this real GDP number is the number which gives you true value कि आपकी इकोनॉमी में एक्चुअली कितना प्रोडक्शन हुआ है. Suddenly suppose there is huge inflation in the economy and actually our production has gone down, but the higher prices will somehow show that okay, maybe our economy is growing, but actually your production is not growing, it's just that your prices are growing. So earlier for GDP calculation, base year used to be 2004 and 5, but now the base year has been changed to 2011 to 2012 and base years को regularly change करते रहते हैं. It is updated regularly, you know, ताकि एक रेफरेंस कैटेगरी ऐसी होनी चाहिए क्योंकि एवरी ईयर न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स आर लॉन्च्ड. जो पिछले लेट्स से जो प्रोडक्ट्स 2004 और 5 में अवेलेबल थे वो प्रोडक्ट्स शायद कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स श्रिंक they are out of production and lots of products have been added. The whole internet economy, Instagram, Facebook, all the apps, all of these things have come into picture quite recently only. So your base year is updated every few years ताकि you can keep up with the changing dynamics of what is being produced and what kind of productions have been stopped. Okay, so this was our entire discussion regarding what is nominal and real GDP. And now in order to do a quick revision, we will quickly go through what are all the important formulas that we have discussed so far, and if not, जो भी हमने नहीं भी discuss किया है, we will just look at them once. Okay. So now let's quickly recap all the formulas, all the important formulas that you need to remember from the basics regarding GDP calculation, GNP, market price, factor cost. Let's revise it once again. So firstly let's understand कि terms के meaning क्या है, and then quickly we will jump on to look at the formulas. So whatever, so there are only 2-3 things that you need to know. First thing is what is X and what is M. So X is somehow related to exports and M is somehow related to imports. Okay, so income earned and received by nationals within the boundaries of foreign countries. So let's say there are some Indian people who are staying in US, they are working in the United States of America. Whatever is the income that they are earning there, that is termed as X. Okay, and similar concept when applied to foreigners would be M. So what is M? The income received by foreign nationals within the country. So if there are some foreign people who are working in India and they are also receiving their salaries and payments, so whatever is that amount is termed as M. So X is somewhat like exports, okay, and M is somewhat like imports. Okay, so these are the two terms that are there, and there is one more thing which is NFIA, which is net factor income from abroad. So this is nothing but whatever is your factor income received from abroad. So different factors of production like your capital or your foreign or your Indian nationals who are working outside, whatever they are earning, that income minus whatever factor income that you pay to abroad. So whatever is the capital that foreigners have invested, whatever is the earning from that, and whatever foreign nationals are earning inside our geographical boundary, that is the factor income paid to abroad. So you can so that is basically you can see that net factor income from abroad from here is nothing but X minus M. So this income earned and received by nationals within the boundary, this is not just the labor income, this is the capital income and everything. So this is nothing but factor income only. Okay, so these are just two different ways to represent. So now that we know the terminology which we discussed earlier also, now let's quickly jump on to the formulas. So what is the relationship between GNP and GDP? So since GDP is a geographical concept, you also need to include whatever income that our nationals got from abroad and whatever foreign nationals earned and then sent to their country. So in order to find that relationship, we just add the income received by Indian nationals and we subtract income that is paid to foreign national. So GNP is GDP plus X minus M. And if you just want to write it a little more neatly, you can say GNP is nothing but GDP plus net factor income from abroad. So these concepts that we've just discussed. Apart from that, so these two we are done. The third thing is net national product is equals to gross national product minus depreciation. So again repeating whatever we discussed, whenever you remove depreciation from a gross item, you get a net national product. So whenever you remove the consumption of fixed capital from a gross item, it is net. Okay, so all right. So another way to write GDP, as we saw in the previous lecture, that using the expenditure approach, GDP is nothing but whatever is the total expenditure that is done in the economy. So expenditure would be the consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus net export. So whatever is the net value of value sent that you've got from exports, and then whatever you spent on imports. Okay, so this term so this export minus import value is nothing but net export. Okay, now GDP at market price equals to GNP at market price, and then simply what you are doing is X minus M, net factor payment from abroad. So no difference here. This is the similar relationship that you're continuing from here and using here also. There is one new thing that we are discussing right now, which is what is the personal income in the economy. So personal income is nothing but whatever is the national income. Okay, so now from the national income, some part of it will go to the corporations that are there in the economy. So whatever goes to the corporation, we will remove that first. So undistributed profit of corporations. Okay, so you remove the profits of the corporation. You also remove payments for social security provisions. So your EPF and all these kinds of payments, your insurance payment that your employer pays, they are also removed because corporation only is taking care of that. So, and the corporation also pay a corporate tax. So this amount of the profits and the social security payments and the corporate tax, if you remove these three items, what do you get? From the national income you've removed whatever part corporation distributed here and there, वो आपने निकाल दिया. उसके बाद now you also, okay, so profits of corporation, payments for social security provision and corporate tax. Okay, the next thing, chalo corporation side we have seen. Now individuals might be getting some payments, some transfer payments from the government, either in form of pension or some scholarship or some let's say some scheme that is going on through which government gives some money to the individual. So you include those payments also in your personal income. So government transfer payments are added. Then you add business transfer payment. So whatever are the transfer payments that are expected from the business side. So let's say maybe you have some stocks of a particular company, some dividends, or so that is basically your earning because you've invested. But apart from those, if there are some transfer payments that are expected from the business side, they are also added. And then let's say if you hold government bonds or some government securities, there is some interest that you get. So this is net interest. So unless you have borrowed too much and then you have to repay to the government, that is why we are using a net. So whatever you've borrowed and whatever you have invested, the net difference in the interest that you get from the government, that is added. So basically I know it's huge, so इसको आप दो पार्ट्स में समझ सकते हो. So whatever is your national income, उसमें से जो भी हिस्सा corporation takes out, and then you add whatever they give to you. So we added business transfer payments, and then another segment would be whatever government gives you and then whatever government takes from you. Okay, so so right now we are not talking about what the government takes from you. We will talk about that concept in the idea of disposable personal income. Okay, so in the personal income item you only add whatever the government is giving you. Okay, so the net interest payments are also added. So personal income में से national income minus corporation की side से जो भी चीज़ें हटनी चाहिए, and then whatever needs to be added from the government side. Okay, this becomes your personal income. Okay, so let's say मेरी मान लीजिए personal income है 5,000 रुपये. ठीक है, अब एक होती है पर्सनल इनकम, उसके बाद क्या होता है ऐसी इनकम जिसको आप खर्च कर सकते हो. नॉट एवरी थिंग दैट यू गेट, आपने आपके जो भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स होते हैं, नॉट एवरी थिंग दैट यू इज मैंशनड इन योर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, वो पूरा का पूरा अमाउंट आपको नहीं मिलता है, क्योंकि जो भी आप अर्निंग करते हो उस पर यू हैव टू पे टैक्सेस ऑल्सो. सो डिस्पोजेबल पर्सनल इनकम ऐसी इनकम होती है जिसको कोई आदमी अगर चाहे तो खर्च कर सकता है. जो अमाउंट टैक्सेबल है उसको आप खर्च नहीं कर सकते, दैट अमाउंट यू हैव टू पे टू द गवर्नमेंट. ओके, so taking from the idea of personal income, we have disposable personal income. So that is nothing but personal income minus whatever direct taxes that you have to pay. Okay, so these are the two new concepts that we have discussed here. So first personal income, remove the corporation part, add the government part, and then when you have to find the personal disposable income, what do? You just remove whatever direct taxes that you have paid to the government, and then you will get whatever is the amount of income held by individuals that they can spend, okay, on the purchase of goods and services. All right, so now with that we are done with the major topics, major technical topics. There is just two things that you need to know. Okay, so पहली चीज़ तो कि नेशनल इनकम्स को कैलकुलेट करना कब से शुरू हुआ, कौन सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो इन्वॉल्व है ये सब कैलकुलेशंस में. ओके, सो द एस्टिमेट्स ऑफ नेशनल इनकम इन इंडिया, सो दे वर द फर्स्ट सीरियस अटेम्प्ट टू फाइंड आउट द national income in the economy was done in 1868 by Dadabhai Naoroji. So he wrote a book, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, and in that he estimated कि India का per capita income annually was at the level of ₹20. So per capita income would mean कि on average हर इंसान एक साल में 20 रुपए कमा रहा था on average. And ये हम 20 rupees might seem too small right now, but we are talking about the year 1868. Okay, so what happened? So that was the first attempt to quote such a number. There were multiple attempts in between also, but if you just talk about what happened after independence, so government appointed the National Income Committee in the August of 1949, and who was the chairman of that committee? Professor P.C. Mahalanobis, who also happened to be the founder of Indian Statistical Institute, from where I have also done my masters in economics. So under his chairmanship, National Income Committee was set up, and they were provided the task of estimating national income for India. All right, and the government also established Central Statistical Organization in 1949. So there was a organization which was given the task of regularly finding out the estimates of national income. All right. So these were a few facts from the history related to national income estimates. Now broadly if you talk about क्या क्या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो रेगुलर बेसिस पे इस चीज़ में इन्वॉल्व होते हैं, सो टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, वन इज़ सेंट्रल स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑफिस एंड one is National Sample Survey Office. So Central Statistical Office is the one which is given the responsibility of finding out the national income estimates, but recently there has been a move by the government जिसके through क्या किया गया है, Central Statistical Office and National Sample Survey Organization को merge कर दिया गया है, and there is one organization that will be formed which is National Statistical Office. Okay, and it will come under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So we call it MOSPI. So Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So these two organizations have been combined, and together they will form National Statistical Office. All right. So ab ye offices. So this particular organization started working in 1951, and what were the activities that it used to track and which it now also tracks? So GDP calculation, Index of Industrial Production, IIP calculations, energy related calculation, infrastructure related numbers, national income accounting, so capital account, current account. In the external sector lecture that we will take, we will talk about what is capital account, what is current account, what is balance of payment, all those things. And so conducting annual survey of industries, finding CPIs for non-manual employees, finding human development statistic, gender statistics, and training officers in official statistics. All these come under the responsibilities of Central Statistical Office. And if you talk about National Sample Survey Office, it collects data on the household level on different socio-economic factors. So data is nationwide collected. Household surveys are conducted on various socio-economic subjects, and they also conduct annual survey of industry. Rural urban prices are also, the data on that is also collected by NSSO, and data on crops is also under the responsibility of NSSO. Quite recently these two organizations have been merged and a National Statistical Office has been constituted. Okay, so with this we come to an end of all the concept that we needed to kickstart our journey on Indian economy. So basics हमने पूरा cover कर लिया है, and from the next lecture onwards we will start talking specifically about different aspects. So the next lecture is going to be on growth and development, but before that, so all the concepts are covered, but now let's see how much do we know by doing a few questions that have come in the past papers, and let's try and see how much we know by now. Alright, so now that we are done with all the concepts, let's look at some of the questions that have come in past year prelims paper, and let's see how prepared are we. Okay, so this question came into the prelims 2018. So the question is something like this. So despite being a high saving economy, capital formation may not result in significant increase in output due to following reasons. So you're giving some reasons, and they are telling you that you are a high saving economy. Okay, so जब भी कोई इकोनॉमी हाई सेविंग होती है, इसका मतलब है कि उसके पास काफ़ी सारा एक्सेस है पैसे का, जिसको वो कुछ एक्टिविटीज़ में लगा सकती है, टू इन्वेस्ट, टू बिल्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स, ऑल दीज काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग. सो हाई सेविंग वुड मीन यू हैव एक्सेस टू फंड्स. ओके, एक्सेस टू फंड्स, access to funds for investment and all the productive activities. Okay, so they are saying despite you being a high saving economy, capital formation may not result in significant increase in output. तो high saving से आपने क्या किया, इन्वेस्टमेंट की, जिससे आपकी कैपिटल बढ़ गई. कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन happens whenever you are a high saving economy. So because you invest in infrastructure projects, पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, अलग अलग तरीके की एक्टिविटीज़ में आप पैसा इन्वेस्ट करते हो, जिससे ऐसे गुड्स आप प्रोड्यूस करने लग जाते हो जिनको बाकी चीज़ों के प्रोडक्शन में हेल्प किया जाए. रोड्स बनाना, रेलवे बनाना, एयरलाइन में इन्वेस्ट करना, ये सब चीज़ें. सो दे आर सेइंग कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन मे नॉट रिजल्ट इन सिग्निफिकेंट इंक्रीज इन आउटपुट. सो आपकी कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन हो रही है, बट इससे आउटपुट जो है वो उतना इंक्रीज नहीं हो रहा. इट कुड बी बिकॉज ऑफ वॉट रीजन्स. सो फर्स्ट रीज़न इज़ वीक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी. सो आपके एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी इतनी पावरफुल नहीं है. सेकेंड, इलिटरेसी है. थर्ड, पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी ज़्यादा है. फोर्थ इज़ हाई कैपिटल टू आउटपुट रेशियो. So all the factors A, B and C that they are given, they are usually factors जो थोड़ा डेवलपमेंट टाइप की चीज़ों को इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं. यहाँ पे वी आर सेइंग वी आर हाई सेविंग इकोनॉमी, वी आर फॉर्मिंग कैपिटल, बट ये कैपिटल आउटपुट में कन्वर्ट नहीं हो रही है ज़्यादा. उसका कारण क्या है? द आंसर इज़ हाई कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो. लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड वाई. अगर आपका हाई कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो है, हाई कैपिटल टू आउटपुट रेशियो, इसका क्या मतलब है कि अगर आपको 1 यूनिट आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस करना है तो आपको कितनी कैपिटल चाहिए. ठीक है, तो कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो अगर हाई है, इसका क्या मतलब है कि अगर 1 यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट आपको प्रोड्यूस करना है तो कैपिटल जो चाहिए वो ज़्यादा कैपिटल लगेगी. तो बहुत ज़्यादा कैपिटल से 1 यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट बनेगा. जबकि अगर आपका कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो कम होता है, उसका क्या मतलब है कि एक आउटपुट बनाने के लिए कम कैपिटल चाहिए. सो लेट्स से इफ कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो इज़ 0.2 एंड लेट्स से 1. सो इसका क्या मतलब होगा कि 1 यूनिट आउटपुट बनाने के लिए 0.2 यूनिट्स ऑफ कैपिटल की ज़रूरत है, और यहाँ पे 1 यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट बनाने के लिए 1 यूनिट ऑफ कैपिटल की ज़रूरत है. सो किस केस में आप ज़्यादा आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस कर पाएंगे? whenever you have lower capital output ratio. So because you have higher capital output ratio, even though आपकी savings ज़्यादा हैं, आप जो है ये जो कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन जो हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ सेविंग, इसको आप आउटपुट में नहीं कन्वर्ट कर पाओगे. ओके, सो द आंसर हियर इज डी, हाई कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो. आई होप इट वॉज क्लियर. So the funda always is you read the question properly, analyze it, and then see कि कौन सा option correct है. The second question it came in the prelims 2015. So two statements are given and then you are asked which one is true, both true, which one, like what is the case. Okay, so let's read the statements first. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following statements. The rate of growth of real GDP, gross domestic product, has steadily increased in the last decade. So since this question came in 2015, so last decade which you have to see is from 2005 to 2015. Okay, so I mean, since we are doing this question in 2022, you cannot look at from now. Okay, so you have to look at it from the reference of when this question came in the paper. The second statement is the GDP at market price has steadily increased in the last decade. So these are static factual question. Yes, both of these statements are correct कि हमारा real GDP जो है वो steadily increase हुआ है पिछले एक दशक में, और हमारा जो GDP है market price में वो भी जो है steadily increase हुआ है. So real GDP grow करने का मतलब क्या है, हमने output को year by year increase किया है. आज हमने पढ़ा था real GDP और market prices में क्या difference होता है. So the answer is C. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Okay. So right now we are close to becoming $5 trillion economy in PPP, purchasing power parity. Okay, so moving on. So this is a question which is quite popular these days. This is question came in prelims 2014. It says, what does venture capital mean? Venture capital का मतलब क्या होता है? So VC funding, startups, अगर आप ये सब में interested हो, so you must have come across this term, VC, venture capitalist. So you must be seeing so many unicorns in India right now. Byju's, Unacademy, Physics Wala, lots of other unicorns, Nykaa. So I'm not sure if Nykaa is a unicorn or not, but okay. Anyway, so you get the ideas. काफ़ी सारे startups को जब funding मिलती है उसको बोलते हैं कि काफ़ी सारे venture capitalist firm हैं जो उन startups को fund कर रहे हैं. तो they are asking what is venture capital? So a short-term capital provided to industries, a long-term startup capital provided to new entrepreneurs, funds provided to industries at the time of incurring loss, or the funds provided for replacement and renovation of industries. So VC, venture capital, is usually the funds that are provided to startups, new entrepreneurs. So which is the correct answer? B. So the funds that are provided to startups and to new entrepreneurs. Okay. Moving on, there are few more questions. Let's do them. Okay, which of these is or example of fixed capital formation? So fixed capital formation के क्या क्या एग्जाम्पल हैं? कैपिटल आपको पता है ऐसी सारी चीज़ें जो एक इकोनॉमी की प्रोडक्टिव कैपेसिटी को बढ़ाएं उसको बोलते हैं फिक्स्ड कैपिटल. सो कैपिटल बोलते हैं फिक्स्ड कैपिटल मीनिंग ऐसी चीज़ें जो मूव नहीं कर सकती हैं. सो जैसे रोड हो गया, पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो गया, फैक्ट्रीज हो गई, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट्स हो गई, मशीनरी हो गई, ये सब चीज़ें. सो इसके एग्जाम्पल्स क्या क्या हैं? सो एक्यूमुलेशन ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व, ये फिक्स्ड कैपिटल नहीं है, ये तो एक फाइनेंशियल कैपिटल है, राइट. रोड एंड ब्रिज कंस्ट्रक्शन, यस, ये एक फिक्स्ड कैपिटल है. एनर्जी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, यस, दिस इज ऑल्सो अ फिक्स्ड कैपिटल. एंड फाइनली ऑफिस इक्विपमेंट सच एज कंप्यूटर, सो ये भी फिक्स्ड कैपिटल है, एक ऐसी कैपिटल जो आपकी प्रोडक्टिव कैपेसिटी को बढ़ाएगी. सो अपार्ट फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट, ऑल द अदर आर द एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ fixed capital formation. So the answer in this case is, so 2 is correct, 3 is correct, and 4th is also correct. So the answer for this one is A, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. All right, moving on. The aggregate demand in the economy usually increases with an increase in the following. सो एग्रीगेट डिमांड क्या होती है? एग्रीगेट डिमांड. सो पहले तो डिमांड क्या होती है? व्हाट इज डिमांड? So you, me, people like us, they demand things. We ask for things. We ask for products. So अगर आप सारे इंडिविजुअल्स को ऐड कर दो तो इकोनॉमी में आपको पता चलता है व्हाट इज द एग्रीगेट डिमांड इन द इकोनॉमी. सो व्हाट आर द पीपल asking for, what are they demanding overall? So that is aggregate demand. So they are asking इकोनॉमी में एग्रीगेट डिमांड किस चीज़ से इंक्रीज होती है, कौन सी चीज़ अगर आप इंक्रीज करो तो एग्रीगेट डिमांड इंक्रीज होती है. सो द फर्स्ट इज़ नेशनल इनकम. तो अगर इकोनॉमी में नेशनल इनकम इंक्रीज होती है सो उससे क्या होता है? नेशनल इनकम इंक्रीज होती है तो पर्सनल इनकम भी इंक्रीज होती है, लोगों के हाथ में पैसा आता है. जब लोगों के हाथ में पैसा होता है तो लोग ज़्यादा चीज़ें खरीदने जाती हैं. सो खरीदते हैं तो क्या कर रहे हैं? डिमांड बढ़ रही है, राइट? सो नेशनल इनकम इंक्रीज होने से एग्रीगेट डिमांड इंक्रीज होती है. ओके. सेकेंड थिंग, इन्वेस्टमेंट. ओके, इन्वेस्टमेंट इंक्रीज होने से एग्रीगेट डिमांड को क्या होगा? सो अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ रही है, नए नए प्रोजेक्ट सेटअप हो रहे हैं, प्रोजेक्ट सेटअप होने से क्या होता है? एम्प्लॉयमेंट बढ़ रहा है. एम्प्लॉयमेंट बढ़ने से क्या होता है? लोगों के हाथ में फिर पैसा आता है, लोग फिर डिमांड करने लगते हैं, ज़्यादा प्रोडक्ट्स बन रहे हैं. ओके. सो इन्वेस्टमेंट इंक्रीज होने से भी एग्रीगेट डिमांड इंक्रीज होती है. एंड गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग बढ़ने से क्या होता है? जब गवर्नमेंट अपनी स्पेंडिंग बढ़ाती है तो क्या ये दो चीज़ें कर सकती है, या तो कोई सोशल स्कीम में इन्वेस्ट करना, सो उससे भी लोगों के पास पैसा आ रहा है, या फिर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में इन्वेस्ट करना. सो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में इन्वेस्ट करने से भी एग्रीगेट डिमांड बढ़ती है. और कोई सोशल सिक्योरिटी स्कीम में इफ़ दे आर स्पेंडिंग मनी देन ऑल्सो मनी कम्स इन टू द हैंड ऑफ पीपल, एंड देन whenever it comes into the hand of people they go and they spend that money. So all these three options are the reasons for increase in aggregate demand. So in this case 1, 2 and 3 are correct. So the answer is D. Okay. So कौन सी चीज़ें इंक्रीज होने से एग्रीगेट डिमांड इंक्रीज होती है? सो इनकम, इन्वेस्टमेंट, स्पेंडिंग, all of them lead to increase in aggregate demand. All right. Okay. Let's do this question. If an economy predominantly keeps producing consumption goods at the expense of capital goods, it will lead to what? So they are saying if an economy keeps producing consumption goods like basic goods जैसे कि खाने पीने की चीज़ें, बेसिक नॉन ड्यूरेबल चीज़ें जो क्विकली बार बार कंज्यूमर्स कंज्यूम करते हैं. ओके. एट द एक्सपेंस ऑफ कैपिटल गुड्स. सो कैपिटल गुड्स में दे आर नॉट इन्वेस्टिंग, ऐसी मशीनरी नहीं डेवलप कर रहे हैं, ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट्स में नहीं इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं जिनसे आगे जाके अच्छा प्रोडक्शन हो पाए, प्रोडक्टिव कैपेसिटी इंक्रीज हो. तो क्या कर रहे हैं? सिर्फ कंजम्पशन गुड्स में स्पेंड कर रहे हैं और कैपिटल गुड्स में नहीं स्पेंड कर रहे हैं. सो इससे क्या होगा? विच वन ऑफ दीज इज करेक्ट? सो the first statement is it will lead to short term as well as long term inflation. Okay. The second is a roadblock in the long term growth. So second statement is definitely true. अगर आप capital goods नहीं बनाओगे तो आप कैसे आगे जाके प्रोडक्टिव रहोगे, कैसे ज़्यादा एडवांस तरीके से चीज़ें प्रोड्यूस करोगे? सो इट इज़ डेफिनेटली अ रोड ब्लॉक इन दी लॉन्ग टर्म ग्रोथ. ओके. सो दिस इज डेफिनेटली ट्रू. लेट्स लुक एट दी फर्स्ट ऑप्शन. सो अगर आप कंजम्पशन गुड ज़्यादा बना रहे हो इससे क्या होगा? विल इट लीड टू शॉर्ट टर्म एज वेल एज लॉन्ग टर्म इन्फ्लेशन? सो इफ़ यू आर ओनली प्रोड्यूसिंग कंजम्पशन गुड, सो अभी आपने कंजम्पशन गुड प्रोड्यूस कर ली है बट धीरे धीरे कंजम्पशन गुड खुद कैपिटल गुड्स के मदद से बनते हैं. तो अगर आप इकोनॉमी में कैपिटल गुड्स नहीं बनाओगे तो क्या हो रहा है? स्टार्टिंग में तो सब ठीक है बट फिर कंजम्पशन गुड्स जो है ना वो भी कम हो जाएंगे, लेकिन जो डिमांड है वो तो उतनी है, डिमांड उतनी ही है लेकिन चीज़ें उतनी नहीं है, डिमांड को मीट नहीं कर पा रही है. सो जब सप्लाई थोड़ी सी है और डिमांड बहुत ज़्यादा है तो इससे क्या होता है? प्राइसेस राइज होती हैं. सो बोथ शॉर्ट टर्म में भी और लॉन्ग टर्म में भी इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ती है. क्यों? क्योंकि आप खुद कंजम्पशन गुड्स भी ज़्यादा नहीं प्रोड्यूस कर पाते विदाउट द हेल्प ऑफ कैपिटल गुड्स. सो बोथ ऑफ देम आर करेक्ट. सो द आंसर इज सी. All right. So okay. All right, let's do one final question before we wrap up our lecture. Okay, so a shortage of investable capital in an economy can result from, so you need investable capital, मतलब आपको फंड्स की नीड है जिनको आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो, तो ये फंड्स की शॉर्टेज हो सकती है बिकॉज ऑफ व्हाट ऑल रीजंस, दिस यू हैव टू टेल, एंड आउट ऑफ दीज 3 कौन कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, लाइक व्हाट कुड कॉज शॉर्टेज ऑफ इन्वेस्टेबल कैपिटल. ओके, सो द फर्स्ट इज वेरी हाई एंड इरेटिक इन्फ्लेशन. तो जब बहुत हाई इन्फ्लेशन होती है तो इससे क्या होता है, आपकी जो वैल्यू ऑफ द मनी दैट यू हैव वो इरोड हो जाती है. मतलब अगर इतनी इन्फ्लेशन है कि मान लो पहले 100 रुपये बैंक में थे, तो 100 रुपये से आप मान लो 2 बनाना खरीद पाते थे, बट अब इन्फ्लेशन इतना हो रहा है कि आप 100 रुपये से एक ही बनाना खरीद पा रहे हो. सो दैट इज़ ह्यूज इन्फ्लेशन. सो बिकॉज ऑफ वेरी हाई एंड इरेटिक इन्फ्लेशन, इरेटिक मतलब कभी बहुत ज़्यादा कभी लो, कुछ प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी नहीं है. सो जब वेरी हाई एंड इरेटिक इन्फ्लेशन होता है तो भी जो लोगों का भरोसा है इन टर्म्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग काफ़ी ख़त्म हो जाता है. सो येस, दिस इज़ अ रीज़न फॉर शॉर्टेज in investable capital. Second thing that we have is low savings. Yes, so whenever you have a low saving, you have lesser funds to devote for investing, so it will result in a shortage of investable capital. Yes, the third is high borrowing cost. Okay, so अगर borrow करना बहुत मुश्किल है, बहुत ही ज़्यादा पैसे लगते हैं या it's somehow costly, then what happens, there is less number of people who want to do that costly activity and invest that capital. Okay, so because of high borrowing cost also lesser and lesser people are interested in investing, and that is why there is a shortage of investable capital. Okay, so high borrowing costs also lead to shortage of investable capital. So you can see first, second and third, all of them are the reasons for shortage of investable capital. So with this we come to an end of our lecture on basic economics. I hope you liked the video and you were able to learn a bit about the basics that we are going to cover throughout all these lectures. And from now on we will focus on specific topics. We have done a good coverage of the basics, and now in lecture 3 we are going to discuss what is economic growth and what is economic development and how do you measure it. So thank you so much for being with me here today, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.